I'm ready. Okay. Other than item 3, the moment of affirmation, does the board want to change any parts of the agenda also?
Item 10, I'd just like to I'd just like to make comment on before we vote on it.
Okay, when we get to consent calendar agenda, we'll pull that one. No other changes? Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as revised? Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Seeing no objections, that passes. And now we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance. And Supervisor Foy, would you like to lead us? Sure. Thank you. We now have a motion for the minutes. We have a motion and a second. Seeing no objections, then that passes. And now we'll go ahead to our consent agenda items. And why don't we go ahead and discuss item 10, Supervisor Bennett?
Yeah, I would just like to call this out for the board and the public's attention, but January 15th, 2002, we adopted a green procurement policy here at the Board of Supervisors, and this is a 5-year sort of renewal of that policy. I think it goes along with our whole issue in terms of our new push in terms of climate change policy that's going to be coming out, but to try to use more recycled materials, more green products over virgin non-recycled content material. Number of examples where that GSA has pushed into those things: 20% recycled content on the carpet tiles, recycled content in the office furniture, those kinds of things. But it's another good example of the county's leadership in this whole area.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Would you like to go ahead and make a motion to accept the consent agenda items 10 through 14?
Yeah, move the consent calendar.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no objections, then those consent agenda items are also passed. We'll now go to public comment, and we do have, I believe, 5 public comment cards. And we'll start off with Lynn Olson. C. Lynn Olson. Okay. Yes. I'm sorry. If you just come up to the microphone. If anyone else, this is your opportunity to speak on items that are not on the agenda. You can fill out a blue comment card, and they're located in the back. Good morning.
Good morning. Would you like just a general idea of what my topic is about, or shall I just go ahead with it?
You have 5 minutes, so you can use that to give your...
Okay. Okay, my name is Lynn Olson. I'm a 99 graduate of Cal Lutheran, Master's in Counseling and Guidance, Education. I also tutor at the Camarillo Library with the Adult Literacy Program. My father has a master's degree at USC. My mother has accolades for her advancing nursing curriculum and honors at the Oxnard Library. My oldest son is a successful business owner of Box Office Mojo, which is the leading entertainment website in our nation. I have been a resident of Ventura County for about 40 years. I am here today as a mental health advocate, a NAMI member, and a mother of my youngest son, age 22, who is diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder and a learning disability. He is currently in crisis, given a 30-day eviction notice at Casa Esperanza. My son Chris was a pioneer. He was the first client to be placed in their dual diagnosis unit in December 15th of 2006. Unfortunately, not being a sober living or least restrictive environmental setting, he faces homelessness on Good Friday, April 6th, with no placement plan in place by the county. Joel Kelsch is on a 3-week vacation. The county's current focus is on MESA and new funding. Telecare, oh, and also all of you guys. Okay. Telecare is now accepting higher functioning clients and they do not offer available treatment for the seriously and persistently mentally ill, as my son. I recently reported a drug deal witnessed by 2 clients at Telecare. One client gave my son the recipe for methamphetamines using cleaning products, and I intervened before his ingestion. The Telecare doctor took him off his meds and is trying something new. I have located 2 well-established dual diagnosis facilities in Los Angeles, the River Community and Ansipi Clinic. My son would cooperate. A transfer of this nature would cost the county $7,200 for 1 month only, and then after that, his SSI kicks in. If my son goes homeless, decompensates, and is hospitalized, the county will have to pay $1,000 a day. And my son's past record is about 14 days at Hillmont. He's had 8 stays so far. 4 times he's been 5150'd out of county. 2 times he's been 5150'd out of state. He's only 22. I propose the county honor my son's request to enter a dual diagnosis facility in Los Angeles immediately. They have an immediate opening. I also propose that Telecare's contract be canceled and given to Ansipi Clinics instead. In my recent visit with the LA director of Ansipi Clinics, he said, "We bid on that contract and we wanted it. Please help me help Chris, as he is not conserved. Time is critical. Good Friday is only 10 days away." Thank you very much.
Madam Chair. Ms. Olson, thank you for coming in. I know you did call. Would you, if you have a moment, if you could go upstairs to the 4th floor to my office and speak with Joyce Taylor? Sure. If you have time to do that. If not, we'll contact you.
And I would comment that we do contract with Ansipi as well as Telecare, so it's not one to the exclusion of the other, and they're both very good programs. Our next speaker card then is Sandy Stewart, followed by Ed Alamillo. And may I ask that be your last woo?
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Mr. Johnson. My name is Sandy Stewart. I am the Regional Director for SEIU in Ventura. SEIU represents more than 5,500 Ventura County employees. SEIU members care for the sick, staff the libraries, protect the quality of drinking water, help run the jails and sheriff stations, maintain our streets, operate the emergency rooms and trauma centers, administer benefits for the poor, and perform hundreds of other jobs in service to the residents of Ventura County. On June 30th, 2007, our contracts with the County of Ventura will expire. The men and women of SEIU are united and committed to winning fair contracts that provide quality jobs and quality services for Ventura County. Strong growth in revenue has lifted Ventura County into a better financial position than in years past. But in too many cases, low county salaries are making it difficult to attract qualified employees and difficult to deliver county services effectively and efficiently. In many instances, Ventura County pays its workers less than the city of Ventura, less than the state of California, less than surrounding counties, and less than the private sector. Ventura County's failure to provide competitive wages is creating operational problems as managers are unable to fill critical vacancies. Staffing shortages are most acute in the Ventura County Medical Center and in specialists who work with the aging. The County of Ventura has a unique opportunity to set the pace and offer pay and benefits that attract and retain an experienced workforce. During our negotiations, we want to ensure 4 things. Number 1, with competitive salaries, Ventura can recruit and retain qualified employees. Ventura County salaries have fallen behind surrounding counties and municipalities. To attract qualified employees, the county must take steps to catch up. Number 2, increase county contribution toward the cost of health care benefits and the real voice for employees in the future of their health care. This will also help to retain and recruit in Ventura. Number 3, to increase employees' access to more affordable housing options, the county should ensure that in all future community development and, you know I'm reading, right? To ensure community development and housing activities, a proportion of the rental and home ownership units are set aside for county employees that reside within the region. Number 4, in key county departments, understaffing adversely affects the quality of public services. County managers should work with SEIU members to identify workload and caseload problems and jointly seek solutions. Our county is thriving and public service workers are committed to the work they do. We must ensure jobs keep pace with the region. Critical positions are going unfilled because recruitment and retention is so difficult. But our county is in the right financial shape to reverse this negative trend and to continue to provide quality public services. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know that we haven't begun negotiations. This is actually the first time I've seen a kind of a demonstration prior to even going to the table. So we hope that our negotiations will be smooth, and know we have more SEIU input not only from our local area, but now you have a more regional voice.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ed Alamillo, followed by Bobby Castaneda. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, Madam, members of the board, Mr. Johnson, familiar faces like Mr. Flynn. My name is Ed Alamillo. I work with the Environmental Health Department. I'm also current board members for the SEIU bargaining team. I'm here to talk to you about a couple of issues. On behalf of the membership, we all know that it's hard to keep on keeping qualified workers here in Ventura County because of the cost of living here. That's no surprise to none of us. We need to retain these people. They're leaving to other parts of the country, other cities, other counties. We're here to ask you to help us work together on building this gap so we can retain these qualified workers here who want to live here, like myself, who was raised here, like yourselves. Help us build that gap. It's important, like I said, to keep these salaries and benefits so that we can stay here in Ventura County and be a part of this community like our fathers and forefathers. I'm currently asking you to look at the broad spectrum of services that we provide here in Ventura County, whether it's emergency care treatment, foster care, child support, mental health services. So we hear that all the time, that people are, like this lady ahead of us, needed dire help. Public libraries, environmental health service, my department. It's a broad-based department. It provides many services to the county. Also urban planning. Whether it's making sure that these potholes are fixed or you want to go to the library and enjoy a good book, you'll see SEIU members there in the forefront in a professional manner to try to help anybody and any individual anytime they can. And we're asking you to help us retain these qualified workers here. In closing, in order to continue delivering these services in a great professional manner, we're asking you to help us bond together in this upcoming negotiations to provide a fair contract for not only county employees behind me, but also your constituents behind you also. We read the paper. We know that the County of Ventura has a bountiful amount of money right now. Capital improvements are including the Santa Paula Memorial Hospital, the new building over here on County Services off of Hill Street. So we know these are good times, and we're asking you to share those good times with us and to retain qualified workers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would also encourage you, if your members are able to, at 10:30 we are having an oral presentation on our budget so you can get a picture of what to expect in terms of our county finances. Bobby Castaneda, followed by Letty Alvarez. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Johnson. My name is Bobby Castaneda. I am a road maintenance labor worker for the County of Ventura. Been an SEIU member for 6.5 years as well as an employee. I'm here to shed light on an overlooked a very important role of our jobs. Maintenance slash labor worker, what do they mean? Help the Ventura County roadways maintain for safe travel as far as transportation. Most people wouldn't consider my job as important in comparison to any other high-end county jobs. If you think about it, if we weren't around to do our duties, like the roads and the streets, potholes, tree trimming, none of it would be done. It wouldn't be done the right way. A lot of us are certified in some areas, not enough, but we still are looked to do the work that we're not certified to do so. In other words, we're doing a lot more work than what we should be doing. I represent my fellow maintenance workers, the guys who maintain the facilities like the electrical and the plumbing systems, or roadways, of course, the airfields at the airport, anything from planting flowers outside the government center, outside the courtyards and stuff, to building, repairing fences, walls, barriers around Ventura County. We'll have to carry out several different tasks in a single day at any number of locations. We may work inside a single building or in several different buildings. In my experience, I work outdoors, out in the heat, extreme weather, out in the cold, up to snow up in Lockwood Valley, floods like, for example, La Conchita. You may have to stand for long periods of time, lift heavy objects, operate very difficult equipment. We're always in awkward or cramped positions, ladders, boom trucks. Work evening, night, or weekend shifts. We're always on call for emergency repairs such as floods and the windstorms we just experienced in the winter. The average maintenance worker known for the county of Ventura makes between $11 and $19 an hour. The average that I just said, it's very difficult to maintain a comfortable lifestyle in Ventura County, which we much like to do as compared to the tri-counties that surround us. Yet our role is very important to the county, you know, how the county operates on any given day. A major portion of the management and maintenance effort is devoted to performing routine, preventative maintenance, and ensure that machines continue to run smoothly, build systems operate efficiently, and physical conditions of buildings do not deteriorate. We also maintain and repair specialized equipment and machinery found in cafeterias, laundries, and most of our hospitals. We devote work associated with vegetation control. The need for vegetation control is driven primarily by safety issues, such as minimizing fire concerns and promoting visibility of traffic, highway structures, and wildlife. Other reasons for vegetation management include controlling noxious weeds and pests, promoting good drainage to minimize stormwater runoff and erosion, and protecting pavement and roadway devices. As maintenance and repair workers, we also inspect and diagnose problems to determine the best way to to correct them. Frequently checking blueprints, repair manuals, and parts catalogs. Delivering efficient, responsive, and cost-effective services to Ventura County citizens when it comes to the roads you travel on, sidewalks you walk on, the county buildings you work in. It's all important to us. Promote quality services through an excellent workforce. I want to continue providing the best services to my community, my county. I pride myself in the work I do and the services I provide. You need to know that we all play a vital role in the Ventura County services, and that without us, the county wouldn't function as well as it does. Everyone here has a role. Everyone behind me's got a role here. From the hospital tech who runs your lab tests, to workers like me who make your office as comfortable and workable as you like it to be, to the roadways that you guys drive on every morning. We make this county trying to make the county safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and we do very much appreciate the work that you do, the pride that you take in it. Letty Alvarez, followed by Susan Chavez.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Johnson. My name is Letty Alvarez. I'm a community service coordinator with Ventura County Public Health Education Department. We focus on prevention. And I've been with the county 4.5 years and a member, but my family has been here for 100 years. Okay, I'm fourth generation, so this county means a lot to me, not just the city that I grew up in. I'm here to speak on behalf of my fellow SEIU members and my community about health care benefits. And I'm very passionate about what I believe in, and so I'm going to read because otherwise I go off on a tangent, all those who know me. Although I'm happy with my current benefit status, I know there are many members out there who are struggling to make ends meet. And as my coworker mentioned, $11 an hour, you probably qualify for a lot of our county benefits that other clients come in for services, and that's not right. Not only do they struggle with their income, but they also have to worry about being able to afford quality health care for themselves, their spouses, and their children. Quality health care should not be a luxury, okay? Many of us get the Ventura County Health Care Plan. Some of us like it. I personally like it, but some of us don't. But they can't afford the HMO. It's costly, and we should be able to choose. We go out there into the community and talk to our clients about making good choices. Some of us don't have a choice. We can't afford to choose an HMO if we wanted to. Do you remember when PPO was a luxury and HMO was just great? It's not right that the county employees think of HMO as a luxury. An improved healthcare system should be guaranteed necessary benefits, including preventive care, access to doctors and more than one hospital, and prescription drugs without unaffordable out-of-pocket cost. Employers, individuals, and government all have a responsibility to pay for health care and control costs. Merely shifting costs to individuals and working families fail to solve the cost crisis. That is why I'm asking in these negotiations that we work together to find a solution that will help not just some, but all workers. Changing the nature of the job market with greater job mobility, increased reliance on self-employment and seasonal part-time and temporary work puts us all at risk for falling through the cracks in current healthcare systems. This is about us. Just because some of us are doing well doesn't mean we shouldn't get involved. I'm not here about me. Okay, I'm a salaried employee. I own a home, but I have coworkers who have no hope of owning a home and have to pay out-of-pocket costs for medical care. So I'm here on behalf of my coworkers. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I really hope that you put all this into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker then is Susan Chavez, followed by Carol Dean Williams. Good morning.
Good morning, Honorable Board of Supervisors. My name is Susan Chavez. I was born and raised here in Ventura County. My family's been here 100 years plus, so I like to stay in Ventura County. I represent one of 19 in-home support social workers who service an average of 3,000 plus elderly, disabled adults, and disabled children of Ventura County. I am here to ask your request for your continued support regarding this growing population. We strive to make sure that our clients remain in a safe and familiar environment and not have to go into a nursing home. We serve your neighbors, your friends, your mother, your father. We are the last stop before a nursing home. We ask for your continued support during negotiations. One of the programs that always seems to be overlooked when negotiations times comes or whenever there's cuts in the state of California, in-home support is one of those that's always hanging by a thread. This program is very vital to your family members, to your neighbors. Mr. Flynn, I know that a lot of our clients call you with concerns. Please, not only listen to them, but help the Ventura County workers who are trying to service these people. But we cannot do it if we're short-staffed. We cannot do it if our workloads are over 200 caseloads and we don't have the time to help them thoroughly the way we would like to. These are my co-workers here. We have been with this program. I've been with the program over 10 years. I love what I do. I don't want to have to leave this program because I can no longer afford to live here in Ventura County, the county that I love. I don't want to have to move somewhere like Washington State and find something else to do. But that's something that we have to constantly look at. Not only myself, but a lot of these county workers here who are trying to manage to make ends meet. A lot of these parents might be single parents who don't even qualify for food stamps or Medi-Cal because they are getting a wage that is a little bit higher. I ask you to please remember not only the in-home support program, but like the workers out here who are working out in the street, the mental health workers. Please, we thank you for your continued support, but we ask you to remember the in-home support program that's been putting off to the side. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate you coming this morning. I know we have had positive negotiations in the past, and we haven't begun the ones coming up, and hopefully those will be positive also. And I would encourage you to make sure that your points are represented at the table through your union. Okay, our next speaker then is Carol Dean Williams, followed by Teresa Stevens, and then Carolyn Consoli.
Carol Dean Williams, a 61-year resident. I tried not to write this poem, but the pen just kept jumping back in my hand. And this is especially for Supervisor Flynn and Bennett and Long, because they're not only supervisors, they feel like family because we've been together so long. Bennett up Flynn. The highest mountain, the highest peak. Mercy, mercy, this ain't grandstanding, this is Tuesday week. Cowboys and Indians, Lone Ranger and Tonto, I suggest Chief Peak and fight it out pronto. Cowgirl Long cried out a veiled threat. Skirts howdy, it couldn't be said any plainer or in more depth. Dueling was outlawed in the Republic early on, but Chief Peak is a-waitin' till Kathy and Steve is gone. Longtime Supervisor Flynn is after your hides. Well, I wonder if ex-Supervisor Michael still cries. Chief Peak is a-waitin' for these two foes. Ventura County ain't big enough for these two souls. The highest mountain, the highest peak. Mercy, mercy, it's the countdown to election week. Well, I just wish I'd received one mailer from one supervisor in my 61-year residency here. I hadn't received one mailer. But now I need all 5 supervisors. This is disturbing. I know a little lady, Loopy Heppenkemper, who has been abused by a powerful employee of the Ventura Unified School District, Joseph Richard Jr. This flyer says no one deserves to be abused. I've just filed a declaration in the Superior Court this morning as a witness. She had to file a civil restraining order. Please, Supervisor Parks and Long, as women, you should understand this. And this is March, Women's History Month. But you know who's in courtroom 34? Gay Conroy.
You do have a microphone, so you don't have to be quite as loud.
I want her to hear this clear up there. Gay Conroy, commissioner in courtroom 34, and her bailiff. Write down March 15, 2007. I'm going to remember these two women has violated Women's History Month. Let me tell you what they did to Lupe Heppenkemper as a witness in case number D320711. We walked into court for a hearing. The bailiff hands her a little sticky note. Denied her a hearing. When she asked for the order, the woman bailiff told her, "You're in the way." The commissioner, Gay Conroy, which I would ask you to invite down here to the board meeting, did not give her a hearing that she was deserved. Mr. Richards' lawyer filed an ex parte, identical in nature, on March 26th, yesterday. Oh, he was afforded the biggest hearing you ever seen. Here it is, under penalty of perjury. It has been sent to Miss White, the presiding judge, because a commissioner is chosen by the other judges. This poor little woman, small woman, is the abuse that the court has given her. Can she file a civil restraining order against the court? It matches or it succeeds what Joseph Richards has done to her. Yeah, it's obvious. A phone call. All it took was a phone call. This woman will not be heard in Ventura County Superior Court. It's all on file. It's all on record. No one deserves to be abused. And I ask this board to make a resolution that you do not support women abusing women. The old days of men abusing women are over.
You have exceeded your time by 2 seconds.
Can I summarize?
You've already exceeded your time.
Yeah, but everybody else did too.
Would you do it softly, not quite so loud?
Could I ask this board to do a resolution that you will not approve of women abusing women?
Sounds good. Thank you. Our next speaker is Teresa Stevens, followed by Carolyn L. Consali. Okay, Teresa Stevens, are we here? Going once, going twice. Oh, actually, she's on item 31, so she's not gone yet. We'll have her on item 31. Then our last speaker is Carolyn L. Consali. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak before all of you. I'm here representing SEIU, of which I'm a member. I'm a county employee for approximately 14 months. I'm speaking on behalf of all of us. I earn $11.30 an hour. That's not enough to pay my rent or buy food. I love what I do. I definitely believe in public service by proof of 23 years in active duty Navy and Naval Reserve. I have a BA in sociology, so I'm well educated, and in life experience I grew up in East Los Angeles. When I first started with the county, I worked for the RAIN project and worked rotating shifts, weekends, holidays, and everything else, but that wasn't enough money. That started off at $10.25 an hour, and I'm nervous, it's in my voice, it's broken up. But every person deserves a living wage. I certainly didn't serve my country to make less money than the third year of active service. and that was back in '83. So I'm asking that each and every one of you, it's not about we want more and more and greed, because I believe pretty much every county employee is here to serve. Right now I work for tobacco education to help people get off the horrible addiction of nicotine. And that is how that helps people in the county is an additional health cost. We all believe in what we're doing in that program, but there's no reason on earth that I serve my country and I'm a public employee that I should not be able, and every other SEIU member should not be able to make a living wage. $11.30 an hour is not enough. What do I get back on my taxes? I get like $300 back. I don't have enough money to have any loopholes to own anything. But the bottom line is really everybody deserves a living wage. There's nothing wrong with being a billionaire as long as everybody really has that same opportunity. And I know that everybody doesn't because of growing up in East LA and serving my nation and serving the public, which I really absolutely love my job. And I have contemplated moving elsewhere. And now I'm actually looking for a second job. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your service to our county also and to everyone here. We'll now move on.
I heard my name called.
I realize you are item 31,
Yeah.
is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll call you at that time. Sorry for the confusion. We'll now move on from public comments to board comments. How about we start on the right side and move our way left this time? Does that work for you?
That's fine. Yes, thank you and good morning. And thank you all for being here. Good to hear from you. We understand you called out some clear issues today, and we will certainly be open to our table when we are ready to get it underway and to really talk to you and listen to you and do our very best for you. So thank you for being here. When we hear from you, we know exactly what your wishes are. Thank you. I don't have a lot of comments this morning. I have one thing to announce. I will be leaving town, going to Sacramento for a CSAC conference. It's a LEDGE conference, meeting with our elected representatives to talk about issues such as health care, which is a statewide issue, and the other platform items that we've identified for our county platform, and I will be up there for 2.5 days. And I also have an adjourn in memory list to put forward and ask the board to adjourn in memory of folks from my district. One I would like to call out specifically, Abigail Spellman. She was just a remarkable, remarkable woman who was struck with a tragic disease that crippled her body, but not her spirit. She became a motivator for many, many people in the community, and her swimming skills that she adopted to because of her disease and her desire to raise money for that and to raise money for other good causes in the county by swimming laps. And she was just a remarkable woman, and asked the board to adjourn in memory. Last week I asked Supervisor Flynn for a report out on a public records request of monies expended on a mailing, and I have that report for the board. Since I did hand it out to all the board members, I will pass the report out that I did receive from Supervisor Flynn's office on that mailing. And I think that covers it.
Thank you, Supervisor Long. Supervisor Foy?
Yes, I'd like to adjourn in memory of one person here in our district. Thank you for that. But I just want to say thank you to the people who attended the barbecue that was put on yesterday, and thank you, Roberta, for putting that on. It was wonderful, and I appreciate their kindness, and all the representatives from all your offices that were there. Thank you very much. I know you did. Yes. You had to stay. We had to stay and eat some good trout and some good tri-tip. It was wonderful. So thank you. And as I mentioned at that barbecue, I think government should have good full disclosure. I found that I went to a great event the night before on Saturday night, well, 2 nights before, and saw some wonderful dancing done by one of our wonderful supervisors and CEO. You talk about swing dancing, they're wonderful. So I just want to say congratulations on all your wonderful dancing. Thank you. I know you did. Thank you.
Supervisor Bennett?
I am sorry I missed that. I got the pleasure of cutting the rug with Supervisor Long at the Ombudsman fundraiser, but it wasn't swing, right? But I'd like to ask the board to adjourn in memory of the people on this list, and also let people know I'll be going up to the CSAC meeting tomorrow also. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Flynn?
Yes, thank you. I'll ask you to adjourn in memory of the individuals on this list, and just make a comment about Joe Luna, who passed away. We talked about him last week. In the Catholic service, you have a rosary, right? And then you have the Mass, and then you have the burial, and then you have a reception. Just amazing the number of people that turned out for the rosary. 700 people were at the rosary. 700 people were at the Mass. 700 people were at the burial cemetery. 700 people were at the reception. That's how much people thought of Joe Luna, who worked for the fire district 32 years, and they were so proud of him. People from outside came to the funeral. People from the LA city and county fire departments came to the funeral, along with others from this county. And 4 parishes were involved. A parish is like a community. And 4 were involved, at least from Oxnard to Port Hueneme. So it was an amazing turnout to honor, to remember this great human being, Joe Luna. Madam Chair, that ends my comments for today. Except I wanted to set Johnny up for a joke. See how quick he is.
Okay, Johnny, are you ready? Okay,
Are you
Johnny's
sure?
ready.
We talked about item number 10, recycling things, right? My furniture has been recycled 8 times. Do you have an award for that?
I say, as have you and I. Let's hope the furniture keeps ahead of us.
Is that how many times you've been reelected?
Oh, I have one more thing to say. Here is Faye Willard out here. Faye, will you stand up? Faye used to sit for many, many meetings right in that chair right there. Thank you, Faye, for coming.
Is it nice to be there instead of here? Yes. I just wanted to comment that as far as going to a couple of events over the last week, many mansions had their Bowls of Hope event, this time in Simi Valley, and I was able to be one of the volunteer servers, and it's such a nice fundraiser because it kind of gives you that remembrance of when there were soup lines, but also that all the money is going to help people who can't otherwise get into affordable housing. So it's a very nice event. Also, we were able to attend the Supervisor Bennett and myself, I think, were able to attend the Harbor West Safe Harbor House in the city of Ventura, and that was really nice to see. It's a multidisciplinary center that helps victims of sexual violence and child abuse, and it's a nice home environment. And to see it was 34 different trade associations volunteered services and material to upgrade this house right next to the Community Memorial Hospital. And it was just so nice to see our county agencies coming together, from our healthcare agency, human services agency, district attorney, not only our sheriff's department, but also the other law enforcement agencies throughout the county, as well as the naval base, all being able to use this facility to make it easier as a one-stop center for people who have been victimized, so they don't have to keep giving their testimony over and over as they fill out reports. They can do it one time in a home-like environment, and it's just such a good place, and it's such a nice collaboration, and it's for the right purpose. So that was nice to go to that. That concludes my board comments. So at this time, we have 10 minutes or so for our regular agenda items before we get to our 9:30 time certain. So at this time, we'll go to item 25, and this is with our healthcare agency, Public Health Department. Good morning.
Good morning. Madam Chair, Johnny Johnson, members of the board, good morning to you. The item before you is a request to apply for Ryan White Title II funds through the California Department of Health Services, the Office of AIDS. These very critical dollars allow us to provide direct client services to people in our community who suffer from HIV and the disease of AIDS. This is a nursing case management to help patients who are critically ill to coordinate their care. These funds also allow us to provide emergency medication to our patients and to provide housing and food vouchers also for these patients. So that is the request before you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or motions, Supervisor Long?
I just have a question. We have been getting these for years. What's the status on the level? Has it decreased considerably? Has it remained steady?
It's gone down a little bit over the years, but it's remained steady for the past few years.
Yeah. Which doesn't speak to where our costs have been, but I think we do a tremendous lot with these very few dollars, and every penny's precious. So
that's right.
Good work to keep it. Move the recommended action.
Thank you. We have a motion? And a second, then?
And a second.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no objection, then that passes. And this is another item with the Healthcare Agency, this time our Ventura County Medical Center. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Johnston, members of the board. We're here this morning seeking ratification and approval of VCMC's receipt of $22,000 in funding for medications for the indigent. The funding comes from an organization called MedPin, which is the intermediary for a funding source that's been provided as the result of a settlement of a class action lawsuit. These are one-time funds to be provided in recognition of our provision of medication to the indigent. The board letter talks in more detail about the program, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Supervisor Bennett?
I don't have questions. I just would like to point out this is just another example of the fact that we have in this country a broken healthcare system. And my compliments to basically our staff is doing a great job of just trying to patch together and hold together a safety net for the indigent, for the poor, for people that have no other option. This is try to pick this up as one more example. Staff sort of hustling, finding those funds out there. So I commend you for doing that. I move the recommended action.
We have a motion and a second. And seeing no objection, that passes. And you also see, while we have this broken system, a lot of creativity on the part of many people to try to get these kind of programs in place. And thank you for going for those funds.
Thank you.
Item 27 is our Human Services Agency. This is regarding appointment of new members to the Ventura County In-Home Supportive Services Public Authority Advisory Committee. Mr. Myers, do you think this might be yours?
This is an appointment of our new members and returning members that you have before you. I'd be happy to entertain any questions. I believe we've already screened all the candidates.
Do we have any questions, comments, or a motion? We have a motion and a second. Seeing no objection, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Now we can move on to item 28. This is the revision of a memo of agreement between the county and SEIU.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, what we have before you today is an amendment required for the 2005-2007 agreement with the SEIU. In the course of the negotiations for that agreement, there was a parallel activity that was retitling some of the classifications represented by SEIU. At the time the contract was completed, the old titles had been taken out, but the new titles of clinical lab scientist, which replaced the laboratory technicians, had not been added. It was not the intent of the parties to remove these people from the title. It was certainly not intended to remove them from their premium pay for the shift. So we are making the contract modification to add the new titles that had been created at that time.
Are there any comments, questions, or a motion?
Move the recommended action.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no objections, that passes. Thank you, Mr. Nicole, for your work.
Thank you.
And then item 29, this is a policy matter, and it's Supervisor Foy.
Thank you. We'd just like to look at the reappointment of Harbor Commission to Jim Clement and Steve Campbell. They've served for many years, and we'd appreciate them to continue their service.
Second.
Motion is second on item 29, the reappointment. Seeing no objection, that passes. And now on to our Public Works Agency. And this is coming back to us, the authorization on the Mountain Gate Associates.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Johnston. Paul Lorenz from the Healthcare Agency. This is a request for your board to approve a new healthcare agency facility in the East County. I want to thank the board and Supervisor for the additional time to review this item in detail. I'm prepared to answer any further questions that your board may have.
Supervisor Foy, he has a bunch of questions for you.
No? Oh, no. I'm
sorry. Okay. I appreciate, we met, as we had talked, we met, and they were very good about giving me a lot of good details and going through all this understanding for me and projection of growth and how they're working through their performance. And they've also agreed that we had agreed that you'd be bringing a kind of a profit and loss to us on a regular basis, as we said in our meeting, on a monthly basis, which I think is going to help us define where things are going and what you're doing, and also understand disproportionate share and all the other revenues that you get, that creative side that you kind of talked about, trying to find different ways to make the healthcare system work, which you do, which I thought was great. And the other thing I thought that was good as we talked and we had lunch together was that Mr. Powers agreed that we don't want to, we right now the general fund spends about $15 million, and we want to cap that and not have to spend any more money than that in the general fund. And I think that's great that you want to use that, and you want to limit that, because as again, all the other things that need to be done here, we need to make sure we find ways to limit that, and I appreciate that. The other thing I thought was very good is that they went through and showed us some different ways of how the healthcare system works and really kind of where you make your money. And I guess if we were to look at that, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to understand all the stuff we talked over that hour and a half, was if I look at the system overall, it looks like it, I want to use these words correctly, as a business running, it loses about $50-something million, if I say it in that way. But then on top of that, you get a disproportionate share from the state and the feds because of where we take the indigent who can't pay. And we get additional $34 million for that. About the right number? Right. And then we also get the $15 million that the general fund contributes, that we do, which sounds like it's a good deal compared to what we hear from our northern county, which spends, what was it, like $30 million or something plus. So we're doing a good job that way. And then our healthcare system, because we also have a plan that our employees participate in, generates about $7 million towards that, as I think was the number I heard, right? It generates about $7 million towards the profit and other parts of that, which is great. So that's how we make up this difference, and that's how we got that break-even piece. So, and that's why I say the important part was that $15 million cap that we as the general fund was going to pay. And so if you continue to bring that for us, I think that's great. And I also understood their perform of how you're going to get to these numbers you said in this lease, which is great. So we'll be seeing that. So, no, I have no problem with this now, and it's great. And I appreciate the rest of the board giving me the chance to spend a little time to understand this. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, and I think it helps all our understanding a little bit better, too, so I appreciate you bringing this forward, and I'm glad that you're satisfied with the information you received. Supervisor Flynn?
I just like the way you recited those numbers. You didn't look at any paper in there. You had them right here.
It's also nice to see that we are getting some funding to the mental health system, which is also a drain from our whole health care system. So we're not quite as bad off as we could be because of that. Supervisor Bennett?
One other thing that I didn't hear you mention in there is that because we have our own county health care plan, I think common sense would say we're probably getting better rates from the insurance companies for our other employees when Blue Cross and everybody else bids. And so that's another sort of intangible savings that we don't really know how much that is, but that's one more savings that's out there.
As a matter of fact, I was asking HR and benefits. They're going to try to find that out this year, try to quote that, so that's great.
Good, thanks.
I would like to move this motion forward, so.
Motion is second. Seeing no objections, that passes. Thank you.
Thanks for all that work, thank you.
And now we are at our 9:30 time certain. And this is a resolution brought forward by Supervisor Bennett.
Thank you very much. This is March 25th to 31st is Boys and Girls Club Week in Ventura County. We have representatives of most of the Boys and Girls Clubs here. I'd like to have them come forward at this point in time and introduce themselves. I also have a resolution for each one that I'm going to pass out to each of the supervisors, and some of you will get two if you have two here. Supervisor Flynn has Oxnard. Looks like we still have any others working their way down. I'd like to read this from up here, and then how about just a quick introduction? Which club you're from? Yeah.
I'm Karen Hewlett from the Santa Clara Valley Boys and Girls Club, representing Santa Paula, Fillmore, and Piru.
Great, thank you. Anybody here from Camarillo? Good.
Our new CEO.
I'm Greg Stewart from Camarillo Boys and Girls Club, Boys and Girls Club Camarillo. We also have a new location in Somas, and I'd like to thank Supervisor Kathy Long for being a longstanding member of our board.
Right. And then a representative from Caneo, Las Virgenes. Okay, Supervisor Park, so you'll have to get that to them. Representative from Moore Park. Do we have a representative from Oxnard, Port Hueneme?
I'm Tim Blaylock. I'd also like to, I'm from Oxnard, Port Hueneme Boys and Girls Clubs. And I'd just like to thank the supervisors for all their support with our Workforce Investment Board grants. And we opened up a new facility in the Juvenile Justice Center yesterday, and would love to have all of you come and tour that. I think that you'll find that it's very exciting and very worthwhile for those kids. I think that we label these kids as at risk most of the time, but I like to think of them as at hope.
Great.
So thank you.
And that helps in the transition once they get out of the juvenile justice system to be able to transition better into society, and you'll be there for them. That's great.
And a representative from Simi Valley?
Hi, I'm Linda White from the Simi Valley Club, and I'm really pleased to have Senator, not quite yet, huh, Peter, Supervisor Foy with our organization. He has talked to us about how important the club is to him and the children in our area, so we're really pleased to have Peter on board, and I want to thank all of you for your dedication to your individual clubs. And we have 4 new sites, so we're really pleased about that. They are on campuses at schools, so thank you.
Great. And representative from Ventura.
Hi, I'm Patty Birmingham, Director of Operations. I'm filling in for Diane Coranda today. I also want to thank the County of Ventura. We represent Sataquay, Ventura, and recently Oakview. And Steve Bennett has been a great help to us. And we are currently in the old Oakview School up in Oakview, which is part of a County of Ventura project along with Interface. And we've just been wonderfully received up there, and we're so excited about it.
Great. And would anybody like to introduce our guests that are here that aren't necessarily from the club? We have, sir, would you like to step forward? And your 2 friends, if they're with you? Or?
Good morning. My name is Omar Martinez. I'm the branch director at the Fillmore Boys and Girls Club. We have Nancy Luna, who is our Youth of the Year. We have Charlene Nunez, Isaiah Martinez, Noah Amaro, and Joao Amaro.
Great. Thank you for coming. We've been blessed with some Fillmore students here quite often here recently and stuff. But I'd like to read this resolution and then ask all the supervisors to go down for us to get a picture. This is the resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Ventura County declaring the week of March 25th to 31st Boys and Girls Club Week in Ventura County. Whereas there are over 4,000 Boys and Girls Clubs nationwide serving 4.5 million youths, and the Boys and Girls Club of America celebrated 100 years of service in 2006. In Ventura County, there are 7 individual Boys and Girls Clubs: Camarillo, Caneo, Las Virgenes, Moore Park, Oxnard, Port Hueneme, Santa Clara Valley, Simi Valley, and Ventura. The Ventura County Boys and Girls Clubs operate 45 club facilities serving over 36,000 Ventura County youth ages 6 through 19. And the Boys and Girls Clubs are expanding in the county unincorporated area with a club opened in Oakview in February. And the week of March 25th through 31st has been declared National Boys and Girls Club Week. Therefore, be it resolved by the Ventura County Board of Supervisors that the week of March 25th through 31st is declared Boys and Girls Club Week in Ventura County, and the Board thanks and commends all the volunteers and supporters of the Boys and Girls Club for their service, invaluable service, I might add, to the youth in our community. So if we could take our resolutions down, and we have Anna for our picture here. Thank you. Okay, why don't we come over here? I think we have our best shot of getting a picture, so if you want to come on over. We'll have the supervisors in the back, and we'll put the, particularly our young people up in front. You gotta tighten in more, folks. Tighten in. Right over there. A little bit more to your left. There's you won't be behind the podium, folks. Let you guys come on over this way here. You two gentlemen, why don't you come on down here? Why don't you come on down? Back up a little bit, we can tighten down a little bit more. All right, Ann. Kind of blocked Thank you for all you do.
Our next item on the agenda is a special resolution for a lot of special people in our county. This is a resolution of the Board of Supervisors proclaiming Human Services Month. March 2007, that's you. I'll go ahead and read this, and then we have some special commendations to hand out too. And it reads, whereas March is National Social Work Month, which recognizes social workers who provide services to society's most vulnerable populations utilizing a professional work ethic that demonstrates a respect for all individuals in an effort to ensure a positive quality of life for all. And whereas the Ventura County Human Services Agency wishes to acknowledge our outstanding social workers and all other employees who work tirelessly to meet the Ventura County Board of Supervisors' mission of providing services and support so that all residents have the opportunity to achieve a high quality of life by strengthening families, supporting self-sufficiency, and promoting safety, health, and well-being. And whereas Ventura County's Human Services employees care for vulnerable populations, including children at risk or victims of abuse and neglect, children in out-of-home placements who need permanent and stable environments, dependent adults at risk or victims of abuse and neglect, senior citizens in need of in-home support services, homeless adults and children, veterans in need of services, and individuals and families in need of financial and employment support services. And whereas with integrity, compassion, and empowerment, the Human Services Agency's employees enrich the lives of individuals and improve the community's well-being as demonstrated by accomplishments in 2006, including achievement of the lowest rate of child abuse neglect among California's 58 counties. Quite a feat. Provision of case-managed services to 1,265 children under the supervision of the Juvenile Dependency Court, with more than 83% of them residing in family settings. Facilitation of over 60 adoptions. Administration of the Medi-Cal program, enabling more than 75,000 adults and children to obtain medical care. Award-winning CalWorks job placements. Provision of rapid response reemployment orientation services to over 750 dislocated workers, provision of assistance to low-income families in filing some 350 tax returns and resulting in close to $500,000 being refunded to local families, provisions of veteran services, making it possible for more than 800 awards to be filed and over $4 million in grants to be distributed to local families, provision of shelter and comprehensive services to approximately 65 residents each month, including children in the RAIN Transitional Living Program, and the continuing development of an administrative support network driven by the values of customer service and responsiveness in problem solving. And whereas, this is where it gets good, Sarah Becerra, Celinda Lindley, Lydia Aguilar, Renee Stewart, William Murray, Joanne Leong, Mary Hamill, John Jackson, William Panettia, Gary Guzman, Jean Ingbright, Linda Weisrowski, Patsy Jimenez, Paul Ornelas, Teresa Titus, Nancy Ambrose, Leticia Morales, Judith Walker, Carrie Garman, Lydia Sanchez, Jose de la Cruz, Lana Powers, Joaquina Giron, and I really apologize if I mispronounce any of these, and you correct me, Alma Barrios, Alicia Avila, Sonia Rodriguez, Maria Juarez, and Melody Dakin have been selected by their peers as outstanding representatives of human services employees now. Therefore, be it resolved that the Ventura County Board of Supervisors takes great pleasure in proclaiming March 2007 Human Services Month and recognizes the dedicated commitment of all members of the Human Services Department and congratulate those being honored as outstanding employees. And I will come down and Ted Myers will help me to distribute these.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Johnson, for this proclamation. March is Social Work Month nationally. In Ventura County, several years ago, we decided to broaden it to Human Services Month because of the great work that all the employees do in addition to our social workers. The theme this year is the social work staff and helping services staff that work with our health challenged clients. In particular, that's the national theme. These people are the backbone of the agency. They provide the services that strengthen our community and all the wonderful achievements that they have accomplished this year. It's been terrific. We have 5 departments in the agency: adult family services, children family services, business employment, transitional assistance, and administration. And I'd like to have the deputies come up to introduce their folks. We have some recognition for each of you. There are family members in the audience as well. So first I'd like to invite Lori Flack, our Deputy Director for Business and Employment Services.
Thank you, Ted. I'll be naming folks, and then if you join us at the podium, please. William Panuccia. Mary Guzman. Jeannie Engrett. Linda Wyzorowski. Patsy Jimenez, Raul Ornelas, Teresa Titus, and Nancy Ambrose.
Next is our Administrative Services Department Director, Melissa Livingston. Each of these folks, we have great employees, and each year the staff and the managers select these are outstanding employees as representatives from each of their offices or divisions. So that's what these folks have earned special recognition. We're very proud of them.
Sarah Becerra. Selena Lindley. Lydia Aguilar. Renee Stewart. And William Murray.
Next up is Joan Smith from Adult and Family Services. I just went on 2 ride-alongs with IHSS and APS, and Joan, as soon as she started with our department, went on several ride-alongs to get familiar with the program and has fallen in love with RAIN and the homeless services in particular.
I'd like to invite up Joanne Leong from In-Home Support Services. Mary Hamill from Adult Protective Services. And John Jackson from Veteran Services.
Curtis Updike from Transitional Assistance Department, our largest department.
Morning, board members, and just a reminder, didn't make it in the resolution, but we did have the highest food stamp accuracy rate in the state last year as well. And repeat winners again this year, right? Yes. And we're repeat winners again this year, so we'll be coming back with a whole trophy presentation on that.
3 years in a row?
Yeah, 2, yeah.
Repeat.
Hard to do.
So Joaquina Garan. Alma Barrios. Elisa Avila. Sonia Rodriguez. Maria Juarez. And Melody Dakin.
You got through Cal Win, huh, Melody?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did.
Congratulations.
And next up, we have Pamela Grothy substituting for Judy Rivera, who is sick today, for Children and Family Services.
Good morning, members of the board, Mr. Johnston. I'd like to recognize and invite to join us Leticia Morales. And Judith Walker.
Thank you.
Carrie Garman. Lydia Sanchez. Lana Powers. And Jose de la Cruz. Don't go too far, Jose. Come on back if you wouldn't mind. With the theme of Social Work Month and Human Services Month, we'd like to invite Jose de la Cruz to tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a social worker.
Okay, I'll try to cover some other things we do, but again, my name is Jose de la Cruz. I've been working for Children and Family Services for close to 15 years, and I've done emergency response for child abuse and neglect calls and case management. It's working for Ventura County has been a pleasure, and I think I wouldn't work for another county, even though I live in Los Angeles. This is my community. I think working with Children and Family Services it's a great career for me and for all of us that do this. I can recall some of the families that I've worked with, and I see how important it is to know our resources, to know our county, because we are so rich with partners such as public health, our hospitals in the county, mental health, and so many other services that one of our responsibilities is to know about all the resources we have, because we then are able to connect our families successfully. I thank you for this, and I'm ready to work another 15 years.
Thank you, board members. If we could have a quick photo, that would be really nice. They'd love it. I don't know if we can get everybody in like we did on the last one, but this is a very important month. It's one of those feel-good moments for our agency when you recognize the work of our staff and their contributions to the county. So thank you very much for the proclamation.
If the rest of the board wants to come down, we'll see how many people we can squeeze into one. And Steve, if you'd like to direct.
We stand back, and you guys are down over here, and I'll be down right there.
a lot of you still behind.
We're going to go ahead and finish off our 9:30 time certains, and we have a very special resolution that Supervisor Flynn is going to present, and I'm going to turn it over to Supervisor Flynn at this point.
Okay, thank you. Let me call Lupe Anguiano to the forward, please. Members of the family here, if you'd stand up, all members of the family.
And friends.
And friends. You know, as I read this resolution, you're going to see a person who is able to work with the left, the middle, and the right. Just listen to this. This is in honor of Lupe Anguiano. Whereas Lupe was born, do you care if I say when?
No, it's okay.
March the 12th, 1929 in La Junta, Colorado, with her family. And with her family moved to Oxnard when she was a young girl picking apricots and walnuts after school, later joining Our Lady of Victory Missionary Sisters and thereby becoming Sister Mary Consuelo, choosing this order because of its steadfast advocacy for the poor. And whereas Lupe left the convent after 15 years in order to work in the community, and eventually helped organize great boycotts in Michigan for the United Farm Workers, developed employment programs for the poor, single mothers on welfare in East Los Angeles, joined President Johnson in 1965 as an educational specialist, and helped write the nation's first bilingual education legislation, and then joined the administration of Richard Nixon, to get my point I made earlier. She can work all across both aisles, right? As an advisor on Latino and women's issues, later working as an advisor in the private sector initiatives for President Reagan's administration. Whereas Lupe Anguiano met Gloria Steinem in the 1970s, and together with Bella Abzug, I should know how to pronounce that right. I've seen the name 100 times. Don't be mad at me.
Yeah, no, we missed her a lot.
And other activists founded the National Political Women's Caucus, in which Ms. Steinem appointed Ms. Lupe Anguiano to chair the MPWC's Welfare Reform Committee, a development that ultimately helped to bring about the historic welfare reform legislation of 1996.
Passed by President Clinton.
Clinton. Did you work with him too?
Yes.
In which Ms. Anguiano returned to Oxnard, where she continues to make a huge impact and remains active in the struggle for social and economic justice, serving as a model of steadfast leadership and activism for others to follow. And I've known Lupe for a long time, and I just want to commend you on all the work that you do in our community. And the community people love you, Lupe. Yes. But I'd like you to give a little speech on how you get everyone working together. Wow. Mr. Nixon, Mr. Reagan, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Clinton.
Thank you, John, for all the work that you do for our community. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Say that again into the microphone.
Thank you, John, for all you do for our community. I also want to take this time to thank Supervisor Bennett and Supervisor Parks for your leadership in protecting the air quality of our community. You know, for 2.5 years we have been working to protect our community from pollution, and the two of you had the courage, the wisdom, and we just sort of when you stood up to EPA and you provided such strong leadership, and I just want to tell you from the bottom of our hearts and community that we celebrate you and we thank you very, very, very much. And we look forward to you participating with us. You know, the end of this issue is coming to a close, and I remember you, Mr. Bennett, you came and you testified as a citizen, not as a supervisor, and pleaded with at the hearing that the air quality of our community was very important, and we really appreciate that. And I also want to thank Supervisor Long for your support of affordable housing I work with home, and your leadership has been, it's always amazing to me how you attend all of the meetings. I have a hard time attending those meetings, but just seeing you in that leadership role has really helped us, and we look forward to really South Shore. South Oxnard has been neglected for so very long, and we just look forward to the development of South Shore, and thank you very much for your leadership. And Mr. Foy, I haven't had the honor of working with you, but we really look forward to working with you. President Reagan was one of my favorite presidents. He helped me bring to the White House the CEOs of this country to have me not teach them, but really share my ideas of how it was possible to help women on welfare move into entry-level positions, and with the support of corporate America, help with the training and all. And it was very funny because the last meeting we had, I still have a picture with President Reagan. He was trying so hard to get welfare reform through. And it was President Clinton who came into office, and he was the one who finished the job. And so that's a very good example of working together for the benefit of people. And I want to say that I'm so glad that I'm being recognized today with all of these the workers in the community who are working so tirelessly to improve the quality of life. And it's a very great day for me because all of you contributed to that recognition, and thank you very much. And keep up the good work.
I think you spent your whole speech recognizing everybody else. Thank you. It's you who deserves that recognition.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for those kind words.
And now we can move on to our next agenda item, which begins our 10 a.m. time certains. And our first one is to receive and file the Ventura County Regional Energy Alliance report. And this Supervisor Long.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. It is my pleasure to be able to bring this to you again this year, and I would invite up Cheryl Collard and Dave Inger from the small but mighty Ventura County Regional Energy Alliance staff. Cheryl serves as the executive director, and David is the guru. And my introduction will, certainly in the board letter, you note that this is, now we're seeing some great success with the Regional Energy Alliance work that the board supported in forming in July of 2003. And we have had significant identified benefits both in funds and energy saved over our funding cycles. And as you know in the board letter, that this Energy Alliance generally runs from monies that we receive from the Public Utilities Commission, public goods charges, and the goal is to really look at conservation and energy resources and to look where we can benefit both public agencies but also private sector. In this report of 2006, you see that there are 8 members listed. We have added a new member who joined us the first of the year, and that's Ventura Unified School District. So we now have the county and the 3 cities of Ventura, T.O. Oxnard, the Community College District, BRSD, City of Santa Paula, and Casitas Water District. So it really is a good broad cross-section of the county and also different agencies that are represented. Today we're going to hear from the Executive Director our accomplishments in the 2006 annual report, and I think lots of exciting and good opportunities in front of us. So it's my pleasure to bring this forward to you, and good morning. And Cheryl and David, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to be here to the board, Mr. Johnson. It is wonderful to be able to provide for you an annual report, which in times past was a bit of a flyer. This time we're actually able to give you a full report. So we're pleased to offer this, and Supervisor Long is presenting this to you. It's also a pleasure, I might say, Supervisor Long has continued to represent the board and with rather outstanding participation. So Supervisor Bennett's not been able to serve as an alternate with us too often. But we do look forward and appreciate that kind of support that allows us to work with the public agencies. As noted, there are now 9 public agencies that are working with them, and each public agency has committed 2 elected officials to work with us, one to be the representative and one to be the alternate. So we never go without good representation from our member agencies. And again, I would just draw your attention to our annual report that you might be able to share this with some of your constituents. We do have a brief history. We've begun with the turn of the century in 2000, 2001 as a result of the energy crisis, and we've given you a brief history that you will understand more about the work that we've done. We will celebrate 4 years this July. We also have been emphasizing our work in energy efficiency. You see our mission statement on the cover page. We really are working towards energy efficiency as the first piece of good energy resource work, and from there we look forward at some future points in time to work with other kinds of renewable forms of energy and to move our region forward. We also wanted to make sure within the annual report that we highlight the work of our community. There are some excellent projects that David's going to describe to you that we've been able to accomplish. We've been able to bring funds to this region that would have been lost had we not had this regional collaboration. We also have had an excellent opportunity to engage in the public and the community with a variety of trainings and briefings and seminar sessions, being out in the community, working side by side, again, with some of our elected officials and community staff who are out there with cleanup days and so on. So we've handed out, I think, 1,000 light bulbs. So a lot of good things going on there. The other piece that we want to highlight with you today is a brochure that describes our partnership relationship. This is the relationship we have with Southern California Edison and Southern California Gas Company. We are part of a statewide network of local government partnerships. However, ours is quite unique in that we are able to provide some direct incentive funds back to public agencies, and this is where the, as stated, the guru of energy. It's just a pleasure to work with David on these projects. We try to work with public agencies on a bit of the 1-2. We go in and we talk to them about what they can do, and the 2 is now you need to do it. Step up to the plate and work with us. We'll provide some incentive, but we want some good pieces of work to come from it. It's based not on a per capita basis or per anything other than the best projects in the door, the ones that we're funding. And everybody has a great list of best projects. We have been working happily with initially the 4 public agencies that joined us early on as we started, being the County of Ventura, the City of Ventura, the City of Oxnard, and the City of Thousand Oaks. And with that success, we've added the additional public agencies. We're now working with schools, and we've also been able to add to our program this year nonprofits. So we've been working with Boys and Girls Clubs, several churches, some preschools. We look at these as the part of the public service network, part of what makes government work, and again, as a local government partnership, we're able to extend some of our program funds and our incentives and our programs to those sectors. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to David to allow him to describe some of the projects and some of the specifics of the work and to see the value that the county has gotten in particular from the work that we've done over the last couple of years of our funding cycles.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Members of the board, Mr. Johnson, I've been reflecting on the fact lately that we don't do anything. We don't accomplish anything at all. It's really the people we work with, our public agency members, that do all the work. And right at the very top of that list are the people at the county, the various county agencies who are in charge of facilities who really make everything happen. And particularly I wanted to pay recognition to Paul Grossgold, Steve Morgan, and Paul Young of GSA, to Mike Powers and Tom Underwood of Healthcare Agency, to Todd McNamee, and to Joe Hennessy of Airports. These are the people that get all the work done, and we're just there to give them a little bit of support, a little bit of money, and to just kind of nag them. That's my chief job, to nag them and to keep energy as, keep their eye on the prize, if you will. I want to throw a few factoids out to you. Hopefully this won't be too overwhelming, but as Cheryl pointed out, we've actually gone through 3 funding cycles, and during our last funding cycle, which went from 2004 to 2005, the county completed projects which saved over 1.75 million kilowatt hours per year, 42,000 therms of natural gas, and avoided about $150,000 a year at current cost in utility payments. And for that, we provided a little over $290,000 in incentives for those projects. Our current funding cycle is for 2006 through the end of 2008. And to date, the county has saved an additional over 700,000 kilowatt hours, which equates to about $97,000 per year in utility savings. And we've provided over $107,000 in incentives for those savings. Currently underway, in which we will know will be accomplished by the end of the 2008 cycle, are about another 2.3 million kilowatt hours in savings. And actually, projects keep popping up all the time, so the number will actually be larger than that. This will save the county an additional $275,000 per year in utility costs, and will contribute about $350,000 to those projects. So all told, if we look at from 2004 through the end of 2008, these projects will have saved about 4.1 million kilowatt hours. They will save the county about $500,000 a year, every year. These are persistent savings in utility costs. And we will have provided about $750,000 in incentives to county agencies. Well, what's 4.1 million kilowatt hours? What does that mean? Well, to kind of put that in perspective, that would be like for every year getting free electricity at the Vanguard building, free electricity at the East County Sheriff's Station, and free electricity at the East County Courthouse. That's what the value of those savings are. Another way to look at it is it would be about the amount of energy used by and paid for free forever for about 700 to 800 households in Ventura County. Meanwhile, this is, since climate change is a big issue now and greenhouse gas production or avoidance is a big issue, these projects will save about, or will avoid the production of, annually, about 2,500 tons of CO2. Right now, what we're looking forward to are a number of ongoing projects at county facilities, and I want to highlight a few of them. The healthcare agency at the Ventura County Medical Center and their administrative offices on Knoll Drive, they're about to embark upon some lighting retrofits to get in some state-of-the-art lighting, which will save about 1 million kilowatt hours between those two projects. Hospitals are great, just like jails are, in that they're 24/7 facilities, so the same energy efficiency upgrade has a big impact when you have a lot of operating hours. The General Services Agency is going to embark upon a major energy efficiency upgrade to the cooling system of this building, of the Hall of Administration, which will be worth about, in total, about an additional 600,000 kilowatt hours per year. Additionally, there are a number of lighting projects scheduled for other county facilities, for the pretrial detention facility, for the East Valley Sheriff's Station. A number of fire stations will be upgrading their apparatus bays. And finally, there will be HVAC upgrades at a variety of other county facilities. So, and this list just keeps expanding as we find new opportunities. And the greatest thing is we've got some real energy champions with the county, and I really want to thank them all for that because, again, that's what makes it all happen. We're just there to nag them. Thank you very much.
Could I ask you to speak, one of you, about the Vista Hermosa and the CEDC, the nonprofit facilities? We had a dedication Saturday at Vista Hermosa, and what took place there?
Yes, I'll just speak to that briefly and also allow David on that. A couple of the other things we're doing is we are working on building programs, we're working on green programs, we're working on employee programs. And part of the green program, the Vista Hermosa was a case study that we were able to get some additional funding on in 2005. And we, as a result, used that as a case study for residential construction, and we added a great amount of energy efficiency to that, which is now included as part of the sales pitch with a neighboring property who also picked up on some of that. And CEDC has decided that some of the principles that they learned from that particular case study and work with us will be incorporated into their future work, so that low-income housing will have exceptional efficiencies added to it, and these are not the kinds of efficiencies that are reserved for just high-end housing, but these are very important pieces as part of any type of housing. I'm going to let David speak to just a couple of the issues that we did do.
Yeah, and Vista Hermosa is farm worker housing, so it's a savings for the farm workers to not have to pay the high utility bills, so it's great.
Yeah, well, working with the architect and the energy consultant on that project, we were able to look at some various scenarios with super efficient water heating systems and space heating system, enhancing to high performance glazing. So we added some suggestions that they looked at and they found to be cost effective, and they've incorporated in that housing, and they've made a commitment that all of their future housing we'll continue to sort of use that as a guiding principle. The other thing we did is, as you may know, that recently Cabrillo bought the building at 702 County Square Drive, which county agencies had in the past had leased space from. And they did a total renovation of the building, and we were really excited about it because what's really different about our program for the 06-08 cycle is we've reached out to nonprofit community service organizations as well as our favorite public agencies. And they were really our first nonprofit non-governmental agency that we were able to provide technical assistance and incentive money to for some of the upgrades they did at that building. So that was it was great to get them on the books, if you will, as a first of that type.
Absolutely.
And their incentive will be about $8,100, I think was their ultimate incentive that will go back into their budget for further energy programs.
So, did you want to comment, Mr. Johnson? I see you.
I don't know, David, if you, with your rapid-fire factoids, I'm not sure my math kept up with you, but it sounded to me like you had a return on investment of less than 2 years on just about everything that was being done. Is that about right?
That's our target. Now, obviously, more expensive projects, it doesn't, it can't pencil out. But right now, if you look at all the projects we've done with all the public agencies throughout the county, we're looking at about an average payback of about 3.5 years. And because of the operating hours, the county, number of county facilities, that gets driven down more to that 2 to 2.5 year range. So it's pretty good. If somebody came up to me and wanted to give me 50% on my money, I'd probably run away from them. So, but again, what's more important is to look at the persistence of these savings. It's not just it pays for itself in 2 years. It's what's going to look like 5 or 10 years from now. That's where
but the skeptics tend to think if it's a do-gooder kind of project that, oh, well, you're spending $200,000 to save $100,000, and the reality is, no, we're not. You're actually getting a return on the investment plus the ongoing savings that isn't forever, but for the life of the equipment. So
these aren't costs; these are investments.
Absolutely.
Just like you don't look at your 401k as a cost; it's an investment, and it's really the same thing.
Thank you. Supervisor Bennett has a comment.
I just want to say that lots of us have jobs and some of us have passions. And it's just really nice to listen to you two. It's really clear that you have a passion for this, and that's just a complete different kind of energy that's flowing into this effort. And I feel it percolating up to my office over and over again as we have conversations about climate change in the county, as we talk with you, et cetera. There are a lot of people that really have a passion for getting this job done right and stuff. I just want to compliment you, and thanks for the energy.
And it does seem that the small changes as well as the bigger changes that are being made are kind of permanent changes, so you have definitely made a change that is helping, that will continue to help far into the future.
Exactly.
With no other comments?
Well, just, and because of this good work, I think that, and this small team, but mighty team, that we are connected up now statewide with other energy alliances, and the PUC knows who we are, and in fact, we're working on a statewide coalition, so we can have a stronger presence with the PUC to get more money from the PUC, because they are public goods charges, and we should put them to work in our local neighborhoods. So I'm just very proud of the work that's been done, and that our board has expanded. It is a JPA that formed this, and it has expanded to have a good representation across the county. So good work.
And can we ask all of our energy champions to stand up so there's more than just us?
They're out here.
Energy champions.
Energy champions. Come on, VCMC, Jackie Library. Yeah. Well, interesting, last week we had a workshop on the Airport Authority and the budget, and one of the things I asked is, okay, what have you been doing with the Energy Alliance? And boy, Todd just rattled it right off and was very proud of the work, and that's what all our agencies need to step up and do, because it benefits us. It is an investment.
And I also want to thank you for bringing this forward, bringing forward the JPA way back when, and at the time you wondering, is this another bureaucracy? But actually, we're definitely seeing the fruits of that labor.
Absolutely.
Thank
it's
you.
a big bureaucracy.
Yeah, right. I thank you, and thank the board for hearing the presentation. Receive and file, that's my motion.
Got a motion and
Second,
a second.
and compliments to Supervisor Long for staying on top of this.
Right. Seeing no objection, that passes. We do have a couple of time-certain items that are coming forward here, but I do want to announce that if we have someone from Public Works, Ron Coons, we do have item 31, and I know we have someone in our audience that wants to speak on item 31. So just because I think that's the only public comment card we have left, when they show up, I would like to go to item 31. So just making that little announcement. Okay, and now we'll continue. This is our item 19, last 10 a.m. time certain, with the Human Services Agency, our Financial Empowerment Partnership. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Johnson. My name is Lori Flack of the Human Services Agency. We're pleased to give you an update this morning on VITA, our Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program that we have been implementing over the past 4 years in partnership with United Way and a number of community-based organizations. We're really happy to be here in a timely fashion to promote this program because we're on the home stretch heading towards April 17th. So we want as many people as possible to take advantage of this program. This project returns revenue through tax returns to some of the most disadvantaged members of our community. So it's really a terrific benefit. Miguel Orozco is here today. He's been doing a tremendous job leading this project over its past 4 years, and he has a very brief presentation for you, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you. Miguel?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Johnson. Here we are, 4 years later, to provide you an update on the Financial Empowerment Partnership. It was an initiative, now it's a partnership. And I have a brief presentation. But first of all, I want to thank all of you for supporting this initiative 4 years ago, where we didn't have a lot of accomplishments, obviously, because we had just started, and then now where we can report what we've been working on. So I guess I can control this here. All right. Without the support of our partners, we would not be able to accomplish anything. This partnership is composed of folks from United Way of Ventura County. I want to in particular thank Susan England for her support in this and her leadership. The Internal Revenue Service. I want to thank Stanette Reese and her team from Los Angeles. Cabrillo Economic Development Corporation. I want to thank Jill Fioravanti. And I also want to thank folks from CAUSE, Maricela Morales, and last but not least, Julie Hernandez. Our partnership goals have always been consistent throughout the 4 years, and they are to increase awareness of and access to the Earned Income Tax Credit, provide electronic filing of income taxes free of charge at volunteer income tax assistance sites throughout the county, and assist low-wage workers in gaining assets, increasing wealth, reducing debt, and moving on the path towards economic self-sufficiency. Here are the results now 4 years later. We've prepared over 1,000 federal tax returns in 10 locations throughout the county. Approximately $1.4 million in tax refunds have been returned to the local economy, including over $850,000 from the Earned Income Tax Credit itself. Approximately $175,000 has been saved in tax preparation and rapid refund loan fees, and that's kind of on the low end, assuming that tax preparations fees were like $175. Some have been higher than that from some of our clients, what they've been telling us. So as you can see, these are the three key statistics. How many returns we've prepared throughout the locations, at the Job and Career Centers, at libraries, at churches, just a variety of locations. The refunds, on average, tend to be $2,000 in refund money that's returned. Those clients who qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit have been receiving refunds up to $5,000, and that makes a big difference in someone's life. That means that they're able to purchase a computer, put a down payment on a car, catch up on their bills. So that's transformed many lives. So the Earned Income Tax Credit is definitely something that could help a family be lifted out of poverty. And the good thing is that they're working, so they're getting credit, a credit for that effort. Here are our future goals. Unfortunately, we have 15 to 25% who are not taking advantage of the Earned Income Tax Credit. And that's why we're here today. We were here to celebrate the accomplishment over 4 years, but we're also here to try to put forth the effort that we still want to get our clients and the community and the folks in the county to become aware of the Earned Income Tax Credit and to take advantage of free tax preparation. We have a mega tax day on April 14th at Ventura Housing Authority. And so we invite everyone to announce that, promote that. We had a very successful event at Oxnard Library on February 10th. We prepared over 50 returns and close to $100,000 in tax return money. The key, the engine of all of this are the VITA volunteers. And the VITA volunteers are folks from throughout all different walks of life, students, former tax accountants, folks who are retired. Just everybody has been really supportive of our effort. We have volunteers who have now been volunteers for 4 straight years. So we have 3 or 4 of them. Also folks from financial institutions. So that support has really been the reason why this initiative has continued to live or continued to be successful after 4 years. And we also want to strengthen our financial literacy programs. 22% of low-income families do not have banking accounts. And the mega sites that I just mentioned in April. And that is pretty much it. I want to thank, again, all of you for being supportive. I know that I've talked to a couple of you in the past with your staff, and so thank you very much for your support. And if you have any questions for me this morning, I'd like to entertain any questions.
Thank you. Great collaboration. Supervisor Bennett, did you want to comment?
I don't have questions. I just think the Earned Income Tax Credit is just, that's the name of the game in your business, and I sure hope we can get those last 15 to 25%. Those people deserve it. And I hark back to a story. I used to work for the state of Indiana Internal Revenue Service when I was in college as my summer job. Mm-hmm. And over and over again, it was the poorest of people who overpaid, didn't take advantage of their deductions, et cetera, and could easily be taken advantage of in the system. So great compliments for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Supervisor Long?
Yeah, thank you. Excellent work, and I know that you're always looking for volunteers to train and help to be a part of this. So having the mega sites, I hope, will put a big picture on what you're doing here and the goals and people who are being helped, and that'll generate some more volunteers. So we'll spread the word.
Thank you very much. Again, thanks to the United Way for helping out also with volunteers. They've been helping us with marketing, and so the word's gotten out. And we're excited. We have the Mega Day, so please, if you can promote that, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Move to receive and file.
Second.
Motion second, seeing no objection, that passes. I would like now to go to item 31, if we may. We have Public Works here for that, and I think we have someone from the public who wanted to comment, so I didn't want to delay it any further. This is an item about Old Creek Road Bridge.
Madam Chair, if you'd care to hear from the public first, we'll be glad to defer and let you hear from them first.
I think it was just handling this as a staff report, and then I'll call the public comment, and if there are questions, you can respond.
Just to go through a little bit of history on this project, there are 3 prior board actions regarding this project. In December of 2001, your board passed a resolution establishing the Old Creek Road dry weather crossing as critical to the local economy and traffic services, more critical than the replacement or rehabilitation of any other project on the eligible bridge list as the list existed at that time. You also passed a resolution in October 2004 to design and construct a bridge on Oak Creek Road over the San Antonio Creek, primarily as a provision for the grant program that we were applying for at the time. In April of 2006, you approved the contract with Quincy Engineering Company, including both design and environmental review services for the project in the amount of $280,000. Today's requested action, would have the impact to approve the final initial study with the proposed mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring program and the project under CEQA for the Old Creek Road Bridge over San Antonio Creek. This would allow us to file the mitigated negative declaration, commence right-of-way negotiations and acquisition of the right-of-way, complete the design, and apply to the federal government, Federal Highway Administration, for further authorization to advertise and construct the bridge. Again, just a few more history thoughts that have come into this project. You don't hear this from me very often, but this project is one of the greenest projects our transportation department has undertaken in the last several years. It certainly doesn't serve a critical overall countywide transportation need. Old Creek Road is only about a half-mile long. It provides no connectivity and serves only a limited number of residences, but it does eliminate one dry weather crossing. It will benefit the residents that do live on Oak Creek Road, and perhaps more importantly, it will reduce a potential impediment to steelhead trout mitigation on San Antonio Creek. It is supported by the California Department of Fish and Game, the U.S. Wildlife Service, and several other local environmental organizations in the Ojai area, including the United States Corps of Engineers. Partial funding for the project is being provided by the California Department of Fish and Game via grants secured by Mr. Offerman of Supervisor Bennett's office. The remainder and a majority of the project funding is being provided by the Federal Highway Administration under their low water crossing elimination program. The net cost to the county road fund is anticipated to be zero, and that's primarily why we're doing the project. Staff has met with all affected property owners and environmental and regulatory agencies. The consultant has incorporated mitigation conditions into the monitoring plan, and Mr. Galvin from the consultant, Pacific Environmental Consultants, is here if you have any specific questions regarding the preparation of the environmental documents. All of the conditions will be incorporated into the project plans and specifications, and we will continue to meet with the affected property owners through the negotiation of the right-of-way to make sure that we have accommodated their concerns to the maximum extent possible or feasible. We do anticipate completing design and going to bid with this project in the fall of this year. The construction cost estimate is $2.5 million. Under this schedule, construction will be in 2008, early 2009. I would ask if there's any questions. I'll certainly be available, as well as Mr. Galvin.
Do we have any questions on this?
I'd like to hear from the public speakers first.
Okay. Mr. Britt, I do have one question. Well, it's nice to see Supervisor Bennett's assistant was able to help in obtaining a grant. Is this funded primarily by grant then, and not?
It's funded 100% by grant funds.
Good to know.
Combination of Department of Fish and Game and Federal Highway Administration low water crossing program. 80% by the federal government, 20% by grants from the State Department of Fish and Game.
Thank you.
Like every project in my district, I never need any county funds. We just
We do have one speaker then, Teresa Stevens.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Teresa Stevens. I want to disclose that I'm an employee of the Public Works Agency Watershed Protection District. Today I'm here to speak as a private citizen. I live at 509 Vine Street in Oakview. I'm here today to comment on the Old Creek Road Bridge to Nowhere. I first would like to request that adoption hearings for CEQA documents be timed certain items. It's difficult for the public and interested parties to get here on a regular agenda item given the delays that occur with the timed certain items that we've been seeing since 9:30 this morning. I object to this project for several reasons. Oak Creek Road appears to be a county road, but it's functionally a private road. This project, I think, there's a claim in the document about that this will improve traffic circulation. I believe this is a fallacy because it's a dead-end road. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't connect to Creek Road. It doesn't connect to Sulphur Mountain Road. I believe it's bad public policy to approve a project that serves only 11 residences who knowingly chose to live in an area subject to flooding and limited emergency access. This project seems to be a gift of public funds that could be better spent on infrastructure improvements that serve the hundreds of residents in Oakview and Casita Springs. And I'll get back to this in a minute. My research shows that there is missing information provided on the cost of the project to the county. The MND says that 80% of the project cost would be from federal funding sources and that 20% would be from Fish and Game. And I don't dispute that. However, additional research shows that Public Works Agency has already spent $250,000 of county money and that the Cal Fish and Game shortfall is approximately $51,000. This brings the county contribution to $301,000. In conclusion, I request that your board deny adoption of the CEQA document and deny the project. However, for political reasons, your board decides to adopt this document and approve the bridge to nowhere. I strongly urge you to require the $301,000 of county funds for this project be repaid to the county through a special benefit assessment tax on the parcels that are served by Old Creek Road. Thank you.
Ms. Stevens, can I ask you a question? Are your objections, what are your main objections other than, there's funds being put towards it, that it isn't going to a lot of people? Do you have environmental objections or?
I don't have it. I do have some environmental objections. I believe they could be mitigated, and I think that in terms of removing fish barriers, there's this one. There are others on San Antonio Creek that probably should be addressed first, and they haven't been. GSA has a low water crossing at the Ojai Bike Trail that's downstream of this, and so I don't know, whether GSA is coming forward at a later time to deal with that. I don't believe they've been successful in getting Fish and Game funds.
So I'm just having a little trouble as to what motivated you to come. It's just the concept that these funds should be applied elsewhere.
I believe that there's obvious infrastructure problems in Casita Springs and in Oakview. I live there. I drive through there every day. And, I really strongly believe in personal responsibility in choosing where you live, and that if you choose to live in a place that has limited access, the public shouldn't be paying for a $2.5 million bridge for 11 residences and one commercial operation.
Okay, even if that public, no matter where those funds are coming from, federal or state?
Yeah, I think it's a general comment about, sort of misuse of public funding.
Thank you very much.
Maybe ask a question.
Supervisor Flynn?
Yes, thank you. Maybe to Butch also. But is this a public road or private road?
Oak Creek Road is in the county-maintained road system. It was accepted by the board back at the turn of the last century.
Okay, thank you. And the money that you spoke of, where does that come from, the $250,000?
There are two state fish and game grants for the project. They amount to, I'd have to get the exact figure, but roughly about $300,000. And then the federal government provided 80% of the cost of the construction through the federal low water crossing replacement program. And we do have the opportunity, as construction costs do go up, and they do on almost every project, to apply to the federal government for supplemental grants for this project, as we do on every other project we do. Don't always get it, but we generally do.
Thank you.
We have a few more questions.
Number one, I appreciate Ms. Stevens coming and expressing her concern, so that I think all projects need to be able to stand up to scrutiny, and so I appreciate that. But could you address then you were saying this was going to be zero county cost, and
that is the intent. That is the way it pencils out at this point. I can't always guarantee the future, but we will apply for supplemental grants as necessary to make sure that the county cost is zero.
So at this point in time,
Yes, sir.
Your best professional estimate is this will be a net county cost of zero.
Yes, sir.
Right, for this project, right? Okay.
Supervisor Foy, you had a question too?
Yes, what was there before? Did the big rains wash the bridge out?
No, sir. It's always been a dry weather crossing. During the winter season, particularly when you have high water flows, the residents in Oak Creek Road have not been able to get to their homes using Oak Creek Road. They used a temporary easement through the Girl Scout Camp, which is located off of Sulphur Mountain Road. That has been a problem for a number of years because sometimes there is a winery at the end of Oak Creek Road, and sometimes people would drive through the Girl Scout camp where the girls are camping in tents, whatever, and sometimes when they were driving back, they weren't always in the best control of their faculties or whatever after they'd been to the winery for a couple hours. So there were some incidents on the Girl Scout camp for people, and the Girl Scouts have at times pulled their easement to allow the residents to go back. But there was nothing, the crossing that's there now is a concrete crossing with a low water pipe through to allow water to flow through during low water flows, but during a good portion of the year, water flows over this crossing, and it's like a Arizona crossing. I don't know any other way to describe it.
I think I've been over that because that's near the Boy Scout camp, Camp Willett.
It's near Camp Willett, yes, sir.
I know where that. Okay, I know what you're talking about there. No, I appreciate Ms. Stevens' thoughts about spending taxpayer dollars on that, but this sounds like to me, though, that probably there should have been a regular road or bridge there originally for this.
There have been numerous different alternative considered for this project, numerous different ways to fund it. We did consider assessment districts at one time. With the dry weather, with a wet crossing elimination program the federal government has, this was an opportunity to have a bridge built at zero county expense together with the Fish and Game grants. We're working hard to make sure we don't, that we stay within the timelines, because there's very specific time frames that we run risk of. If we don't meet those time frames, we run risk of losing some portion of those grants. Right. So that's why we are pushing to get the project approved. It certainly, if you have further questions, we can try to bring them back to you.
And this does enhance the passage of Steelhead?
This has been recognized as one impediment to Steelhead crossing on the San Antonio Creek. There are others, but my experience is you have to go after them one at a time. You can't solve them all at one time. And
that's primarily why you had the support of the environmental regulations, Fish and Game.
That's why the Fish and Game, Department of Fish and Game is funding it. That's why most of the environmental organizations that I'm aware of that would normally give me a hard time on a project like this are supporting it and actually helping.
They're actually supporting a construction project.
A transportation project.
Supervisor Bennett?
If I could, I'd like to point a couple of things out to the board. A few years ago when we had the real heavy flows, that was the same time that the Girl Scout Center shut down the easement right for the residents. Then we had a number of people making the case that for better or for worse, although it's not very many residents that are there, and for some reason I have 17, and I have to go back and confirm that. Do you know, is it 17 or 11?
It's in the neighborhood of 17 residences and the winery.
And the winery. That the allegation was made that the county, for better or for worse, approved the construction of that housing there, and therefore has some responsibility to make sure that there is emergency access to the properties, et cetera. So you have that issue in terms of a liability standpoint. Then on top of that, we had this opportunity to be able to get this grant funding for this project, and during those times when those residents were blocked off, that was a real issue for those particular residents. This funding, I would offer, Butch is exactly right, we have an issue in terms of trying to make sure things move fast enough, and there have been some changes at the federal level in terms of how projects are reviewed that are affecting Caltrans' ability to do some approvals, and some other issues that we're backed up right against the wall. And we have gotten one extension of this fish grant for about $750,000, I believe. And we got one extension of that fish grant. We are not likely to get another extension of that fish grant. We really need to stay right on top of this thing in terms of it moving forward. So a although I certainly appreciate the concerns that some people have, I think you add this up, and this is a way to make a significant improvement in sort of a county road that we have there, and a way to do it with funding from the federal government and Fish and Game grant that probably would not come to some other project in Oakview, certainly not at this point in time, because this grant will be lost, and it will go on to some other grants that are out there. So.
That is a significant point in that the federal money for this project and the Department of Fish and Game money for this project could not be used for other infrastructure improvements, although I don't deny that there are many other infrastructure improvements both in the Ojai area and throughout the county that are perhaps of greater need, but the money could not be used for the other needs. So sometimes you have to play with the cards you got dealt.
So with that, I would move the recommended actions.
I would like to recognize the project manager, Glenda Rossett, who has really done a yeoman's job in keeping this project on track, despite a number of different problems. And I just want to ask Lynn to stand up and take a bow.
I met Lynn out at the site with the residents, and I marvel at his ability to say, "Oh no, that thing will go 6 feet higher." And I stood there, and I realized that was certainly not my forte, to sort of take the blueprint and be able to figure out where it was all going to go. But appreciate your support getting out there.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. Did you want to comment?
Just to comment, this has a long history. I recall the history, particularly the Girl Scouts issue and the litigation, and it is one of those tough ones. So I think finding the creative financing resources that bring benefit to those agencies that are putting forth those grants is certainly a win-win. So thereby my second.
Motion and a second. Are there any objections to the motion? Seeing none, that passes. Thank you for coming and giving us your comments. We'll now go and complete our 10:30 time certain. This is a report from our CEO's office on our county budget.
I really didn't intend to say much this morning, but I think in light of the public comments this morning from the unions, I think it's probably a good idea to clarify a few things for the board. Last week I did an overview for you. It was a complex issue, and we tried to simplify it to explain how you take $1.5 billion and try to sort it out as to what you can actually make decisions on. And then this week, you've been given a little insight into the complexities of expenditure. Most of the money you spend, or a substantial portion of your budget, is labor-driven. The group that spoke to you this morning, SEIU, represents over half your workforce. So it's negotiations and labor contracts are a big issue. Their job is to represent their workers and provide the point of view from their membership standpoint. And I can't remember which labor leader it was. Was it George Meany or Gompers or someone? They said, "What do you want?" And they said, "More." And that is the role of labor. So this is not meant to be refuting anything they have said, but my job is to provide you with an analysis of the data as best we can understand it and to give you some kind of perspective. And then your job is oversight and the establishment of priorities. And so someone once wrote a book called Zero Sum Economy. I think it was Lester Turow or something, that the concept is that you have so much, and if you use it here, it's not available to use it there. So that's the dilemma that you folks face every year at budget time. A couple of comments that were made that kind of caught my attention. The representative of the union, she and I worked together down in Los Angeles, so I guess we're a couple of LA retreads, but her description of our circumstance as a thriving situation, I don't like to always be the guy with the gloom and doom, and I don't think we're in a bad situation. We're in a good situation because we have been living within our means. And that doesn't mean that we're doing all the things we'd like to do and that everybody's happy with that, but at least we know we can afford it, and there are no freezes, there are no layoffs, or haven't been for a while. The economy is not cooperating at the moment, so there will be a change, but the examples that were given to demonstrate the thriving situation locally, I think, need to be looked at a little more closely. For example, the Santa Paula Hospital, that is a public health and safety issue and a new service, or a service that your board reinstituted. There is a cost associated with that, and so in fact the operating expenses have gone up in order to do that. It is also an enterprise fund, so over time there is a business plan for that to be self-supporting. So if things work out, it's a one-time sort of investment and then an ongoing benefit to the community. So I would not look upon the Santa Paula Hospital as an example of thriving. I think it was a good move at the right time that provided a needed service. The second illustration they gave was the purchase of the I think it's called Partridge Square building, the headquarters for Human Services Agency. That was an opportunity that presented itself to pay cash for that building out of a windfall of reimbursements from the state of California, one-time money. You had a choice at the time to put the money in the bank and then to borrow money in order to purchase the building, or to cash it out. At the time, we recommended cashing the building out and not incurring the debt, because the debt service on that building would have been somewhere between $1.5 million and $2 million a year of ongoing operating expense. So in a way, that's a success story, because there's an additional $1.5 to $2 million available to meet operating expenses for the county. But it is not the sort of thing that says, you know, you could have taken that money and suddenly underwritten your payroll, because your payroll continues. And that, so those are two issues I think we have to keep in mind. And I'd also like to reiterate, one of the ways in which we have come to live within our means is your board has adopted a couple of really important policies. And one was to say that the goal of this county will be to pay a fair and competitive wage to its workforce in order to recruit and retain quality employees. And I think in that case we are in harmony with the goals expressed by the union. The question always is are we retaining our workforce? And there's data that will furnish you. We keep track of that, and when we have areas where it's difficult to recruit or retain, we identify it. And so I think at a later date I should bring that back to you, and also do that as a subset of the SEIU labor organization to see where that needs to be addressed at the table, if at all. And the other thing that we have said over and over again is that while we wish to pay a fair and competitive wage, and that we will attempt to reach what we call the market-based average, in doing so, when you reach an average, we do want to stay with the market, but we don't want to drive the market as far as labor costs. And so that means that some people will make more than we pay and others will make less than we pay. It's unlikely that we'll all end up hitting right at the mean average. So I will look into the suggestion that they're paying more money locally for the services that are being provided, just to get an idea if we are competitive. So I think those are things that we need to recognize, and we also need to recognize that we say that we will attempt to pay fair and competitive wages to the extent that we have the ability to do so. And I will wrap my remarks up. I think, you know, whenever you invite the company over to your house, or someone comes to live with you, you start looking at your living room or the condition of the yard in a little different way than you did for those who live there all the time. And so one of the perspectives that Supervisor Foy provides is he's not a guest, he's just a new resident here in the house, and so we should kind of look at what we do in that light. And one of the things that happened here this morning that I thought was kind of serendipitous was we had the SEIU group here, and we had some very articulate people speaking from their hearts, giving a perspective that's very difficult to get when you're out. And I know you worked harder, or as hard as anybody I've ever seen, at trying to learn a complex organization in a short period of time. But by them coming forward and giving their perspective, that was a good thing. And then followed right on that was the awards for the Human Services Agency, and then coupled with comments from our healthcare agency. And I guess I'd like to just kind of wrap it up by saying, you know, that when you sit here on Tuesday mornings, you hear the expression, the fabric of society. It is a fabric. It's, you know, it is a weave between a number of interrelated systems. So public safety, public health, aren't just the hospital, say, and the jail. They include a number of other things, including your environmental health, your planning, your energy resources. And all of those things are the challenge you folks have coming up in about 6 to 8 weeks as to how we set those priorities. We are taking into consideration the cost of labor for next year, but obviously the expectations or the desire will exceed the supply, and so that is the challenge you will have. Where you will spend the money, and when you spend it for one program, it's not available for another. If you pay too much for one position, more than you need to in order to recruit and retain, you have less money to pay for the other areas, maybe where you do have a problem of recruiting and retaining. So that's my effort this morning to provide perspective, and I will now be quiet.
Well, you know, the next item on our agenda,
May I just
yes.
raise a question
I'm
or
sorry.
a point?
Yes,
there is, they did speak of housing issues and affordable housing, and we need to address that issue somehow. Oxnard has addressed that for a long time, but now is on a path to provide more workforce housing, and the housing is absolutely necessary. It really hasn't hit us yet as hard as it's going to hit us, but perhaps some units are going to be built in El Rio, and we hope that we can begin to meet that need that was identified this morning. It's a real need, we all know that, and so that's going to be before us one of these days.
I was just going to say, we're talking about the budget, and our next item is going to be talking about our retirement association, but you also realize how everything is connected, and looking at, and we'll get to that next, but one of the comments in there is that they had higher than expected individual salary increases last year, which kind of threw things off a little bit here. So you just realize salary is one thing, then it affects other things. And as you were talking about everything as to whether we can hire more of those employees, depending on how much they're paid, and being able to make sure that we're able to maintain the services that we have in addition to that. So, do we have a motion to receive and file this nice oral presentation? Great. Motion and second. That passes. So now we will go on to our item on our retirement association. That's item number 32.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Johnston, members of the Board of Supervisors. Tim Thonis from the Retirement Association. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me here today. I'm here on behalf of the Board of Retirement to request the adoption by the Board of Supervisors of the recommended employer and employee contribution rates as detailed in the June 30, 2006 actuarial valuation that was prepared by the Board of Retirement's actuary, the Siegel Company. The Board of Retirement did adopt this actuarial report on January 22nd, 2007. The recommended employer contribution rate on a composite basis for the upcoming fiscal year 2007-2008 is 19.36% of covered payroll. This amount is some 2.34% greater than that was adopted last year, which was 17.02%. The reason behind the increase is twofold. First, and the most material reason, is the Board of Retirement's adoption or change in our mortality assumption. Very simply put, in our actuarial experience study that we conducted effective June 30, 2005, a study that we accomplish every 3 years in accordance with the retirement law, we found, not to anyone's surprise, that our members were living longer. I think that we all recognize this as something that isn't just unique here, and is something that is being recognized across the country, nationally, within the Social Security system, within the Medicare system. That change in the assumption added 1.96% to the employer contribution rate. The second reason behind the increase in the employer contribution rate relates to the incorporation in this actuarial valuation for the first time, the liabilities associated with the Tier 2 COLA that is provided to certain members of the Retirement Association, those represented by the SEIU union. And that is approximately, I believe, 40% or so of our active membership. In terms of the employee contribution rate, once again on a composite or on the average employee contribution rate, we're looking at a rate next year of a recommended rate of 8.14% of covered payroll. This amount, when compared to that which was adopted in 2005 of 6.81%, is also an increase. Again, and it is an increase for exactly the same reasons as that apply to the employer contribution rate. The change in the mortality assumption added approximately 35 basis points, or 0.35%, to that rate. And also the incorporation of the 2.63% employee contribution rate that the SEIU members contribute to assist in the payment of that Tier 2 COLA benefit, when added into the average rate, equates to a 1.01% increase on a composite basis. I do have some good news that I can share, thankfully, and that is that there are $175 million in investment gains that need to be assimilated into the actuarial value of assets over the next several years. This is detailed in the actuarial report in the first section, section 1, I believe, on page III. The actuary speaks in terms of, and I'm paraphrasing here, of course, if all other things being equal, then one could expect that the employer contribution rate, due to the recognition of these investment gains over the next several years, should serve or may serve to lower the employer contribution rate. Also on that page, one will note that there are several warnings as to what may cause that not to occur, and those include things like assumption changes in terms of, for example, what we've experienced this past year with the change in the mortality assumption. I recognize that you had a rather extensive presentation on this subject approximately 3 weeks ago from the Board of Retirement's actuary, Paul Angelo. That said, I would be happy to go into a little bit more detail on the report, or I would be more than willing, of course, to answer any questions that any members of the Board of Supervisors may have.
Supervisor Bennett?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment that I'm glad we had the presentation 3 weeks ago, because it really helps put this report in perspective. Yes. Like Mr. Angelo said, people are just going to look and go, well, are you at 100%? And we actually, if you look at this relative to what he's saying, we're right about where we should be, and so we're adjusting our rates, and so I'm very glad we had that presentation. I want to thank the CEO for getting that scheduled and stuff, and appreciate this.
Okay. Any other questions?
I got to have a question on this stuff. I get to sit and listen to him at the board meetings. It's good stuff. It says here in this board letter we'll have an additional $19 million this year. Mm-hmm. And that's because of this 2.34 increase, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess maybe my second question probably is more towards for Paul back there. Was this already included in our current budget forecast? You already knew that was in there. Okay. So that's where some of our money's going, huh? No. It's not new. And the $175 million that you're talking about that we have kind of out there, mm-hmm. When you talked about that'll help reduce, will that reduce increases, or you think reduce our current if everything runs well?
It would reduce the current costs, current employer costs going forward, assuming all other things being
assuming the actuarial stables, everything stays the same and everything else.
The assumptions and the experience come within what we call their normal bounds, normal bands.
Right. Okay, Wall Street, like you said, Wall Street stays the same, we don't live longer, all those kind of things, right?
Right.
So there's probably it's not a 100% chance for sure we're not going to get this, because most likely we are going to live longer, and there's going to be some actual changes in some of this, right?
I think that the experience, again, every 3 years we look at the experience factors, and we will adjust if it is indicated that our members are in fact living longer than we are currently projected.
Yeah. Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions on this? Great. Yes, thank you for the report. Is there a motion then? We have a motion to receive and file. No objection. Thank you for the reports. Correct.
I believe so.
It's not just receive and file. Move staff recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no objection, that is adopted. Thank you, Supervisor Flynn. Then our last item before closed session is our correspondence agenda, items 33 through 35. Motion second, no objection, that passes. And now we will go ahead to our closed session, adjourn from there. And County Council, do you anticipate an announcement from our closed session?
No.
No. Then we'll just go ahead and adjourn from our closed session. Thank you very much.